Hey everyone, welcome back to AskReddit Reads. Today's topic is, what is the worst thing that you did/said while being angry? Let's get into it. My mother's ex-husband and I had a real volatile relationship. He was mentally and emotionally abusive, and my mom was an alcoholic. There was one day where things were getting extremely bad. Both my mom and her ex-husband were drinking. All I did was walk in the door, and that's when it all started. I was told I had no friends. I was told my family didn't care about me, and that if I disappear, it would be a good break because I was disappointing. I was told that they wished I was dead. I kept trying to tell them to leave me alone. I tried hiding in my room too, but they followed me. At one point, I finally became so enraged that I flipped my bed over, not just a mattress, I'm talking bed frame and all, because I kept a knife under my bed, and then chased them out with a knife, and told them I would kill them and not to go to sleep. Yeah, that was fun to explain to the cops. So this one, in my opinion, was a total accident, but no one believes me. When my brother was like 3 or 4, he kept rolling this stupid brick around, hitting me with it on the foot and ankles. He was pretending to be a dog or something. Anyway, I got mad after him doing it a couple times and grabbed the brick. Since I was mad, I went to throw it down. I picked it up, turned 90 degrees to the right, and wailed this brick to the ground as hard as my 7-year-old arms would let me. I didn't know he crawled around because he was still pretending to be a dog, and I cracked him in the head with it. I knew I was in big trouble because my parents didn't beat me for it. It took like 10 stitches on the back of his head to fix it. In middle school, one of my classmates was permanently in a wheelchair. He was also a bit of a bully. He was making fun of me and my friends, and in the middle of it, I said, "Come on, friend, let's go find some stairs." I still cringed pretty hard about that one. As a wheelchair user, what kind of person does it make me if I would laugh if someone pulled that on me? But also, the guy was being a dick, regardless of his disability. So, not as bad as some, but when I was a kid, I wanted a hard-boiled egg one afternoon, and my mom said no. I asked why, and she said no. I got upset and went to my room. When she went to take a shower or whatever, I had the brilliant idea of making my desired egg tree with speed and stealth. I took a coffee mug, filled it with water, dropped the egg in it, and stuck it in the microwave. I forgot how long I set it for, but it was long enough for my mom to come back out to the sound of something cooking in the microwave. She asked me to come in the kitchen, which I shamefully did in defeat. Just as she begins to ask me what I'm cooking, the microwave starts to beep. On the third beep, there was a very loud but muffled thump from the microwave. The egg had exploded, the cup had exploded, the microwave was ruined. This wouldn't have been so bad had my family had enough money to replace the microwave, and I hadn't wasted eggs. This is relatively low stakes, but I still feel terrible about it. When I was a kid, 12 plus, my sister and I were both home alone together frequently because both of our parents worked and I was old enough to babysit. We lived in a house that was too small for all 4 of us, in a bad neighborhood, and it was a permanently dirty old house that was falling apart. So background stress levels were high, just to set the tone. My sister went to a friend's house to play across the street. Meanwhile, I couldn't find my gem doll that I had gotten from a friend online and was looking everywhere for it. They don't make gem anymore, so it was a very important doll for me. While I'm looking, my sister comes home and timidly asks for me. "Strawberry are... what?" "So you know how I went over to the neighbor's house to play?" "Yeah." Her dad got mad at us and ripped the head off the doll to punish me, but actually it was one I brought over and I think it was your doll. So naturally I lost my mind and tore into her. I was furious. Not only was that my doll, but it was rare and out of print and already older than either of us. So how dare she steal it from my room and play with it and get it broken? I yelled at her so loud and hard I went hoarse, and she crumbled into tears. I demanded she give me my doll back and not talk to me until Mom and Dad get home. She collapsed on the bed and sobbed, and I took the doll back into my room. I looked at it, and it was a grungy old Barbie doll. I felt so guilty for screaming at my sister, and hearing her sob through the walls made me feel like a monster. I ripped her a new one over nothing, an old raggedy Barbie with missing hair and a chewed up feet. My gem doll was somewhere in my room, she'd never taken it. Eventually I came out of my room and apologized to her. I explained why I was so mad and what I had incorrectly assumed, and I told her that it wasn't her fault the neighbor's girl's dad was crazy. He later apologized to her and his daughter too, but that made me feel just as bad as he was. It's been over a decade since that happened, and my sister and I both moved on and have a great sibling relationship, but I still feel so horrible about how I treated her when I was a teenager. I wish I had been more level-headed. I told my mom I hated her. I was a kid. I absolutely forgive myself for having done it. I've had my own kids do the same thing to me when they don't get their own way. It happens. Kids don't understand. But I know it hurt my mom, and that hurt is still with her today, and I certainly regret it. She did nothing to deserve me saying that. When I was a teenager, I told my mom that if she was my age, I wouldn't be friends with her. She cried. That was 35 years ago, and I still regret it. It was a pretty mean thing to say. When I was 3 years old, I got into a fight with my grandma. Nobody remembers what it was about anymore, but apparently it ended with me telling her to call me when she dies, so I could come and visit Granddad. She says she never laughed so hard in her life before. Still, I can't help but feel kinda bad each time she mentions it. My dad was a loving father, and I loved him with all my heart. He was like a best friend, and there was no thing I couldn't tell him. He was an alcoholic. Sometimes things got really bad, and he was a mess, and I tried to help him get better. There was also times he didn't drink, but that time he was drinking a lot and had a couple seizures. I was so worried about him and stayed at his place almost every night for a year. When I wasn't there, I always slept with my phone so he could call me if something went wrong. I was only 19 years old at the time, and one day I was so tired of taking care of him that I said, "Sometimes I wish he was dead so I can start living my own life." After I said it, I felt so bad, and I didn't mean it. I loved him so much. Only 2 days later, he was found dead at his house. He had a seizure because he had taken alcohol and some pills. That was the worst thing I had ever said, and I wish I never said it. Screaming at my little sister for over an hour for something that I messed up. I still feel incredibly bad every time I think about it. She had a hard time back then, and I acted like such an effing a-hole. It's not something that I did, but something I came close to doing. That snapped me out of my rationalizing of a relationship that lingers as a warning forever in the back of my brain. I was in a very unhealthy, borderline abusive relationship for 2 years with a woman who controlled me, isolated me from my friends, etc. We argued constantly, and one night, after what felt like weeks of arguing, we were screaming at each other again. While I held a heavy drinking glass with water in it in my hand, I was overcome with fury, and then in that moment, I came so close to chucking the glass at the ground to shatter it, or at her to hit her. I just wanted to let my anger show, or prove a point, something, I don't know. At the last moment, I stopped myself. I've never hit or thrown anything during a fight, but that was my watershed moment, because I knew if I did, I could never take it back, could never unshatter the glass or unhurt her. We ended the relationship shortly after, but I try to keep that moment in mind in general. Words can't be unsaid, and glass can't be unshattered. No anger is worth that much hurt. Back in 2003, teenage me created a fake AIM name because I suspected my girlfriend was cheating on me. Not only did she flirt with this random stranger I created, she confessed to having sex with many different guys, just bragging about it. Instead of handling this, I logged into her AIM, I knew her password, and hit on every man she knew and convinced them she'd like to bang dogs. Word got around and she got kicked out of her church. Definitely worst angry thing I've done. I ripped my shirt off my sister in front of my friends, as in she was wearing my shirt. At the time I snapped, I could not deal with her having absolutely anything that was mine. There were much bigger issues, but that was what I snapped about. I want to crumple up and die of 1,000 paper cuts when I remember it. We're good now, we have fights, as sisters do, but we are best friends. Not even being an awful person in anger can get in the way of the bond that grows when you survive the stuff we've gone through. It is still the worst memory I have though. I wish I understood things the way I do now, but we were both young teens drowning in our reality. I often hold my emotions in, and they all come bursting out at once with explosive consequences. At a job where I was just there for the paycheck and not much else, never going above and beyond, never volunteering, I had 2 bosses, one of whom was fair, and the other one was a complete dick. Day after day, I cataloged things the dick manager did that was ineffective and useless, often mean. It was clear he wasn't very good at his job, and often used a punishment of others to mask his incompetencies. One day, when he wrote me up for being 5 minutes late to work, I said fine. Also on that day, he wrote me up for taking a break that was too long by 2 minutes. Whatever. Even later, he called me into his office and said he was writing me up for delaying work because he observed me moving slowly. This was a bridge too far, and I let him have it. I told him he was out of his league, 10 years older than me, and would never amount to anything beyond the associate's degree from community college and a job most high school seniors could do without a number of F-ups he had. I said he'd spend his time writing people up for being late when he waltzed in later than most workers most shifts, and he was trying to hide his own flagrant rule breaking by pretending to be on top of others. No, I knew I wasn't a perfect employee, but if he spent less time on his computer and more time with the workers, he wouldn't have to write me up for being slow. He'd have to write himself up for being slow because he'd realize how effing incompetent he was at even moving boxes. And then he fired me. I couldn't have been happier. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to visit the original thread, I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.